Hey, everybody, Sam here with a couple announcements before we jump into this week's episode. So, the first announcement concerns MagicCon Chicago. Of course, you know we're going to be there, and that event is kicking off in just 3 weeks, which is insane. So, first of all, if you're going to be there, come and find us. Check us out. We got a bunch of awesome things going on. So on Friday, we're going to be in Creator Central from essentially the opening of the convention until like 4 or 5 p.m., really one until they kick us out. We have a dedicated area to just jam with prospectors, play games, meet you, have you meet other prospectors out there, make friends for the weekend. It's going to be awesome. It's an all-day Howling Salt Mine meetup, and we're super, super stoked. And it's official. It's on the MagicCon website. You can find that information if you go to Experience and Creator Central, and then it's in like the Spectacle Play area there. Check it out. Jam games with us. Meet us. We don't have an official meet and greet this year. There's just a lot of creators at this event. And since we have this big dedicated meetup thing for our community, it pretty much is a bit of a meet and greet. So come through, even if it's just to say, hey, have us sign something, whatever. You know you want to say hello. On Saturday is a very important day. We have our second live show, baby. That is right. The Howling Salt Mine podcast live, Chicago style. And that's from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. in the Spin Down Room, E351. That's in the Spin Down Room, E351. You're going to want to get there early. We're kicking it off right at 4. Get some seats in the front. You know we're going to have giveaways. You know we're going to do salty stories. And you know we're going to sing a salty song. And I need your salty stories. If you are going to be in the audience for that Chicago live show, if you're going to be there on Saturday, send me a salty story. Email it to us at our Gmail, which is thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com, or submit it on our website, as you know. And in the title, put Chicago MagicCon, MC Chicago, one of those things. Make sure it says Chicago so I can search it up. I'll pull them all together and I will read 3 of those. I want you to be in the audience to hear your own salty story. We did the same thing in Vegas, and it was a hit. It was so fun. This is the thing to go to. We're going to be giving away Howling Salt Mine play mats. We're going to be giving away some of our tokens. I'm going to have some of our classic, old school, salty treasure tokens there. And I'm also going to be giving away some of the token artist proofs I have, my sketches of the monthly tokens that we do. And I'm going to be giving those away. So you're going to have some one-of-a-kind shit there. And it's just going to be fun. And we're going to record it so you can listen to it. And hey, you'll be like, oh, that person laughed in the background. Yeah, that's me. That's awesome. After that, in the same room, I'm doing another doodle off. If you were there at Las Vegas, this is a super fun event put on by my good friends, My Hands Are Blank and Jacob Paris. These guys organized it for our Vegas event, and they're doing it again for Chicago, where me and a bunch of other awesome Magic fan artists are going to be drawing legendary creatures from memory based on audience request. So it's going to be a bit of Pictionary, a bit of a memory game, a bit of how well are we remembering these characters and interpreting them and drawing them in 60 seconds. It's very chaotic. It's very, very fun. It was a huge hit in Vegas. So if you want to see me doodle live and get a chance to walk home with a bunch of those doodles, then come to that event. It's very, very fun. It's a great way to spend your Saturday afternoon. On Sunday, we don't have anything official planned for Sunday, but Tony and I will be walking around with the recording equipment, asking people what makes them salty. We may find a specific table and set up and have people come through. We might find a corner of the Creator Central and have people come through and find us. Either way, we're going to post about it on social media. If we do find a specific spot, come find us. Tell us what makes you salty. It's going to be super, super fun. Oh, and did I mention that we have a new t-shirt design for Chicago? And yes, you can still order it and have it arrive in time. A bunch of people have ordered it and they got it within 1 week. So if you order it when you're listening right now, you know you're going to get it. Keeping with the theme of our merch from last MagicCon Chicago, we have an awesome necropotent skull with some nerdy glasses on, chomping into a big Chicago hot dog. And it says, I got that dog in me, Chicago 2025. It's very funny. We like it. It's going to be our food token, too, our custom token. So come find us for those tokens. And it's just an awesome design. We're going to be rocking it. And you should, too. And if you already have some Howling Salt Mine swag, you know you should wear it because that's how we find you in the crowd. When we're walking around, that's what I'm looking for so I can see you. On to other announcements. Finally have I gotten my shit together and pulled together some new playmat designs for our space on Jank Mats. In addition to the Howling Salt Mine logo playmat, you can get Blue's a trash color for trash people on a playmat. You can get 1-800 Are You Flappin' Zatalpa on a playmat. And you can get Howling Wizard Salty Gang on a playmat. But there's more. Also on our Bonfire store, we have our new Dare spoof shirt. If you grew up in America in the 90s, or I think even in the aughts, you probably were a part of the Dare program. Say no to drugs, all that kind of stuff. Well, we took their very iconic logo, put HSM on it, say yes to salt. It's an educational podcast. Check it out. As always, all the links are in the show notes. And we hope to see you at MagicCon. And I hope you enjoy this lovely, lovely episode. Thanks, everybody. Love ya. Bye-bye.
One podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering community for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast. The podcast where we delve into those salty, salty minds of the Magic the Gathering community. And you know we're going to find the saltiest stories and the saltiest posts and the salty confessionals, put them in our mind card and bring them right back up to you, our dear prospectors at home. As always, I'm your host, Sam, and I'm joined by my one co-host, Mike. What's going on, Mike? Say hey.
Hey, howdy.
Howdy indeed. And before we go any further, I'm in rare form. And before we go any further, you know we got to shout out our nice tier patrons. And this week we have Accidental TPK, Alex Balix, Crean Bean, Dr. Black, and ZZ. Thank you for being so nice. We really appreciate it. And we love you.
Nice.
Platonically.
Wow. Love bombing? Okay.
So Tony's not here. Tony is he's a big busy businessman, you know? And sometimes he's just got to do big busy business.
You didn't want to do the alliteration on big busy business boy?
Oh shit, he is. He is a big busy business boy.
Yeah.
And that business boy has been
he's out doing business.
Yeah, he's doing business. I think he's businessing in Baltimore, perhaps.
Yeah, briefly.
No, that's not true. I think he's I don't have another alliteration.
Yeah.
I think he's in like Texas or something like that, or
Yeah,
Arizona, whatever.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the Southwest.
Normally he's businessing in Boston. Doxing Tony real quick.
And you know what? I actually just remembered that he's not even away on business. This is like a pleasure vacation, and he's like hanging out with friends this week or something.
Oh,
So he
yeah.
doesn't even have a legitimate excuse.
Yeah. It's true. She should be calling in from the golf course, which I'm
Yeah.
certain he and his friends are
Definitely not
partaking
doing.
in.
Yeah. Yeah, from the links, call us in.
From the links. Call on in from the links, Tony.
Yeah, have his bag boy set up a long distance call in between holes.
I can't believe we haven't shouted out to all the prospectors that are listening to the podcast at the
While
golfs.
golfing.
Yeah,
Do you think?
another source. Welcome to our local golfers.
I hope they are. I hope they're blasting it to like their 60-year-old golfing partners, and they're like, "Hey, have you heard about bidets? Hey, Dale, have you heard about bidets? They're pretty cool." Oh man, dude. But yeah, Tony's not here. You know what we don't have is Tony and I just came up with the Gremlin Boys stinger. We don't have a snazzy stinger for just you and me, Mike.
No.
And honestly, I was thinking about it today. I don't even think we could use the name that we used to use. We used to call ourselves the CD Boys because Tony wasn't into CDH.
Yeah, and then we convinced him.
Yeah, now we're just on equel footing.
Tony just has to come in and ruin another good thing.
Basically, yeah.
No. We'll have to revise.
We'll have to rebrand.
Refactor. Yeah,
Mhm.
rebranding. We're the
Yes. Yes.
No. We're the Pokemon Pocket.
What are the Pokemon what?
The Pokemon Pocket somethings.
Or the Pokemon Pocket Pals? Oh my god.
Yeah, there it is. That's it.
Oh man, too bad we used up all of our Pokemon TCG Pocket talking points before we started the episode.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, Pokemon Pocket TCG still fucking great.
Still great. New set any minute. good time to get in. I don't know if that's real.
Yeah,
That's not
actually,
really how that works,
there is a
but it
new set
is.
any minute. I think it's at the end of the month, which is, I'm pretty fucking hyped for. So,
Yeah.
dude, I saw this thing on Instagram the other day where it was like a screen cap of somebody's Pokemon TCG Pocket account. Just so people
Yeah.
know, this game is free to play,
But you can spend money.
but you can spend money. There are optional microtransactions. This person had 28,000 cards in their collection. For comparison's sake, for the good folks at home, I have 2,000 cards in my collection, maybe just over. And I have been playing this game like aggressively for like 2 months now, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
Someone did the math in the comments of that, and they're pretty sure that person spent $18,000
Oh my gosh.
in game transactions.
That's so much.
And I heard the other day that apparently the game has already made $400 million of revenue for the company.
Holy smokes.
That's fucking insane, dude.
That's insane. It's free, dude.
Literally. So I've heard that there's this thing with games with microtransactions where like they make their profit off of like less than 10% of the player base.
Yeah, 90% of the profits.
It's like
classic.
this tiny amount of people who just go ham with like the microtransactions and will dump like thousands of dollars in because they have the income, have a spending problem, all of the above.
Bit of column B. Yeah, a bit of column A.
A little bit of one, a little bit of two.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
Yeah. You just pay for the gold pass like a upstanding citizen.
Ah, man, did I forget to unsubscribe from that? I'll get it next month. I bet I'll remember next month.
You could unsubscribe now and you'd retain the rewards for as long as but
yeah.
no.
But my
that doesn't
phone's
make
so far
sense.
away.
Yeah, it's
I'm
just
reaching
so
out my
far.
arm. I'm reaching out my arm, and I like can barely even.
Yeah,
I
and
can
the third
barely
pack a
even get to
day
it.
is like not even that many more.
Exactly. I mean, it's really I'm saving hourglasses, and I'm going to
Yes.
convert those hourglasses into a second home when I'm older.
Yes.
So-
Yes.
I won't even miss the $20 or $30 I've spent on the game already.
Yeah. What do you think the grains on the inside of those hourglasses are?
I don't know. I mean, probably just like sand or like gold dust.
You don't think they could potentially be a certain different element, a sort of base combination of two elements potentially?
Are you hinting that they're tiny ice cubes? And it's H2O.
or sodium and chloride stuck together in little crystals flowing through
I don't know.
through an hourglass? No.
I don't know. I mean, it feels pretty. I feel
Do you
like we
think
have
they're
to
salt,
vamp
Sam?
for another minute.
Do you think they're
I
salt?
feel like we have to vamp for another minute. It's only been 7 minutes.
We're straight to business. That's always been that's
is
always
that
been
our
the
thing?
point.
Is that
A
we're
little bit. A little bit.
Are we just
It doesn't-
business boys?
We're the big business boys.
we were the big business boys the entire time. Oh man. Oh gosh. Just no tangents. Straight to business.
Straight to business.
Well, I mean, I was going to talk about my favorite mobile games of all time, but I guess I'll save it for another time.
No, I would hear that. I would hear that.
Have you ever played Ridiculous Fishing?
No.
Dude, Ridiculous Fishing is such a good fucking game. Holy shit. That's like S tier phone game.
What's so ridiculous about this fishing?
So you're basically a guy fishing, right? And it's got tilt controls on your phone, and you maneuver your lure back and forth. You dodge the fish as you go down, and you try to get as deep as you can. And then the first fish you catch, that's when you start reeling back. And then the game reverses and you bring the lure back up. And now instead of dodging the fish, you're trying to tilt your phone to catch as many fish as possible. And then when you're done, when you get to the top, your little guy pulls all the fish up into the air, and then you shoot the fish with a gun. And all the fish that you kill give you points and like dollars, and you can spend it on new stuff.
That is ridiculous. I will give you that.
You can get new guns that can like kill the fish faster. Eventually you can get like an orbital laser. That's really, really fun. And then you get different lures that you can attach. Like you can get like a chainsaw lure. So the first fish that you hit, you just cut through it. And then you can add like a toaster to your fishing line. So the first fish that you accidentally hit, you just zap it and you kill all the fish on the screen.
Ooh, it's somewhat grim. I see.
Yeah, it's pretty edgy. It's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
kind of ridiculous, some might say.
Some would call that ridiculous,
It's a little
certainly.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And man, it's just fantastic. That is a really good one. I think I've already extolled the virtues of cribbage with grandpa
Oh,
enough on this
certainly.
show.
Yeah, certainly.
But the folks at home know that I love it. And then
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for a classic, man. Give me Jetpack Joyride. That's a solid
Wow,
game.
that's a way back classic.
Oh,
It's been
yeah,
a
dude.
while.
It has been a while.
It's been a while.
That was a good one. Oh man, what was the racing game that was around at the same time as Jetpack Joyride?
Now I have to check.
I'm not going to remember it. That's all right. I always end up finding, I mean, one, every card game that I like playing has started making mobile games now. So like I can play Arena on my phone. I can play
That's pretty
like,
hot.
Star Realms on my phone. I can play Pokemon on my phone. There's a lot of card game options on there.
Do you fuck with Hearthstone?
I don't have it installed right now. I haven't played it since like, I don't know, college probably, or like
Yeah.
a year after. I like it, but now that Arena exists, like Hearthstone was always kind of like, oh, cool, I can play like Magic Light on
Definitely.
online. Great, I can do that. But it was always supposed to be Magic.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I play Hearthstone maybe once every year to a year and a half. And I used to play it a shit ton, like a lot. So I will go in and I will dust all my old cards. I will look up the top meta deck online. I'll craft the top meta deck and I'll just ladder for like 3 days. And then I get it out of my system and I'm like, all right, see you
That
next
was
year,
enough.
Hearthstone.
I'm
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
I'm like, I'll be back next year and see what craziness you're up to.
The other thing I end up having on my phone is a ton of roguelikes, and games with upgrades is the main category of shit that I end up playing on my phone.
Ridiculous fishing, dude. You got to get it.
Yeah, I should try it. I don't like motion controls on phone games though. Like I get that
It's pretty
conceptually,
clean.
but I'm often like in a car.
In a car would be tough.
Yeah, exactly. So that gets tricky. But I also have been playing a bunch of Balatro recently.
Dude, so I
resisted a long time.
I've heard of Balatro. I've like learned a bit about it, but I've resisted because I know it's going to pull me in. Could you explain it to me? Like whenever someone really tells me about it, I kind of tune it out because I'm like, I can't know too much because I will just play it constantly. So hit me. I'm ready. I'm ready now.
You're ready.
I'm a stay-at-home dad. I spend 4 hours a day sitting on a couch with a baby sleeping on me, and I have nothing else to do. Hit me. It's
fully pausable at all times as well, which I can imagine may be interesting to you as a, also adult with a baby on account of like, if anything were to come up, you can immediately close your phone and address it.
And then continue to play. That's
that as well. You can do that.
That is
too.
very nice.
All right. You got a deck of cards. You get dealt a hand of 8 cards, I think, to start. There's things that will vary this throughout the game.
Yeah.
And then you play a poker hand of up to 5 cards. And based on that hand, they give you some points. They give you some chips.
Okay.
And the better the hand, the more chips you get. And it breaks down by like, the certain hands have different tiers and they'll have like a multiplier applied to them. So they'll have like a base amount of chips and then a multiplier. You play a hand, you try and get a certain number of chips over a threshold. And then if you beat that, you go on to the next like match, the next point threshold of chips that you need to hit.
Okay.
Each time you like beat a point threshold of chips you need to hit, you stop and you have a store. And you have like a certain number of hands to play it in one of those things. I described it terribly.
So it's like a roguelike. It's like
it's
poker,
a roguelike poker game. Yeah, that's the simplest way of explaining it.
Hand, you said.
You draw an 8-card hand, you play 5 cards out of it, you get some points, and then you redraw up to your hand size. And you get like 4 plays, for example.
Yeah.
But in between each of these rounds, you can think of any roguelike sort of thing. You can buy like buffs.
Chainsaw.
You can buy like not a chainsaw. You buy like jokers that have effects on them that say things.
Yeah, I've
like,
heard about the jokers.
Yeah, so they're like the main thematic thing. You get those and they sit in just like a little side deck and they're just like buffs from, a roguelike. And there'll be things like your red cards all count as 1 suit and your black cards all count as 1 suit.
Oh, man.
So suddenly you can make flushes super easily, right? You can play 5 things of 1 suit super easily. Or you'll get single-use things that will destroy a card from your deck. So you can like trash out your 52 card deck down in like you
like
can get
thin
things
it
that'll
out, get rid of all
thin
my
it out.
twos.
You'll
That's
get things that
fucking
let
sick.
you copy cards. So like you can get like 10 aces in your deck. You can play like a 5 of a kind instead of just a 4 of a kind in some situations. And then there's like after 2 like kind of blinds, these like point values you're trying to get over like a course of 4 hands or so, there's like boss things, and they'll be like, for this set you have to get this many chips, and when you refill your hand after playing a hand, you draw them up backwards, like
that's cool.
face down. So then you're trying to like figure out, okay, is there a card that would likely work with the other cards that I have to score some points? So yeah, there's a ton of like
that sounds super fucking
curveball
fun.
mechanics they throw in at you. But the games are pretty quick. Like the runs are pretty quick. Like at max, you would do like 24 little things where you're trying to hit a point threshold, unless you do, there's like an endless play mode, of course, where you never stop.
Yeah,
but
you
that's
just
like
keep going.
That's like the fixed length of a run that you're trying to do. And then there's a bunch of different, like as you unlock stuff, of course, there's different things you can unlock. So you can unlock a different starter deck where you start the run like without face cards, or you start the run like the economy is different. Normally you win some money after each of those rounds to stand in the store. And there are things that'll be like, okay, you get money from having interest, or you get money from playing as few cards as needed throughout the run or something like that. So you'll have like different ways that you can influence the economy for it. So it's good.
Dude, that sounds fucking sweet.
Yeah, it's really good.
That sounds pretty dope.
It's really good.
I really love, I mean, it's funny, we were talking about Hearthstone. Hearthstone had like the dungeon runs, like the single player options that I think are actually some of the best content that you get on Hearthstone, are like the single player shit where you can do the same thing. You can like roguelite it and modify your deck as you play. And in some of the newer ones, you can like craft new cards or change stats on cards. It sounds kind of like similar, but instead of Hearthstone, you're dumping out these poker hands.
Yes, exactly. You're dumping out poker
dope,
hands. It's pretty good. And it's got a lot of depth. I know. I've been thinking a lot of games in terms of like how many systems they introduce. Yeah. Right? Trying to think of a specific example of a game. But like for the Pokemon Pocket game, it's got like a player versus player system, a player versus environment system, a pack opening system, collecting, it's got like all these different systems in it. And Balatro has a lot of different pieces to it. It's got like a Joker mechanic. It's got like vouchers you buy that are ongoing buffs. It's got like seals that get put on cards that do different things. Like when you draw them or keep them. It just has all these different elements, that different starter decks, different difficulties that introduce different things, different single-use spectral cards. Like there's just all these different, like different systems and directions for it to go. So it's pretty great.
All right. I'm going to download it.
And I think it's only like $10. So it's like 1 month subscription to Pokemon Pocket TCG.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
It's basically like Pokemon Pocket TCG, which just costs $20 next month. Which
exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
It can be pretty frustrating for me in particular, because I'm bad at poker, and thankfully it doesn't really require that, but it does get you in a habit where like sometimes the math gets hard, because you get one card that says like all of your odd cards count for like double points or something. Mm-hmm. And then you get another thing that's saying like the first card you played in each hand, you ×2 or you ×3 it or something like that.
Interesting.
So you get to these points where there's like all these effects on a board state that you play, like on one hand that you play, where it like, if you just added up all the points on the cards, it would be like 50, like 5 10s, or like 4 10s and a jack or something. Maybe that's 50 points. But then you're getting all of these multipliers, and it gets up to like 11,000 points for the turn. And you're like, eventually you're just kind of playing the hand because you're like, I think this has my biggest numbers associated with it, but you don't know what it's going to hit to.
You can't like optimize it for the math anymore.
It's like almost too hard. At least for me, you can, if you're like going to take the whole time to like sit down and calculate through the hand, but you don't want to anymore. So you just start like throwing these
Just
hands
ripping
out
it.
that you know are like your best hand. And sometimes it's not enough and you don't get to the point threshold. And then you're like,
I could have done it
I
differently.
probably could have done it if I like actually carefully mapped out every single hand that I played. But when you're first playing, you're like, oh, I'm going to get this. I'm going to know exactly the score before I play it. But by the end, I don't know.
It's fucking crazy.
By later, I was like, I'm just going to play stuff. This is 4 of a kinds are my best things. I'm just going to look for 4 of a kinds and play this.
I know nothing about poker either. I mean, I know like a rudimentary amount. I think I've played poker all of like 5 times in my entire life. Like I really don't know it at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, I play cribbage and there's like math there and card hands and you're looking for interesting things. So maybe I can translate some of my skills.
It does an excellent job of introducing it to you as well.
Sweet.
It just like
That's
steps you through everything you need. And it's not really poker because you're not like betting against someone. You don't even need to know like the normal
You're just looking for like
ordering
runs
of poker
and
hands
flushes
very much.
and like
3
of a kind, 4 of a kind.
It follows very intuitively the way the game is laid out that like the harder to get hands are worth more. You know?
That makes sense.
Like a straight, that's going to be harder to get than a pair, right? Like some of those things can make some sense. So then like you can modify the like level or the value of each of your different hands as well. So if you want, you can do a run where like high card, you get that to be like worth more than a flush.
Oh, that's
so
wild.
Like a single card. If you just like, you just get certain jokers that make it so like if you play a 1 card hand, the value goes up and it like scales, you know? And so there's just like, again, there's just so many different things there. Like the poker piece is like the foundation of it. But it strays so far from that as you build out like a build or a deck or something or do one of these runs.
And that's a foundation that's in so many 52 card games. Like cribbage has those, like gin rummy has like, you know, like runs and 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, like all that kind of stuff, like having a certain number of points associated with it. Like, I feel like those are elements that any card player could get.
Just the stuff that tickles our pattern matching brain.
Yeah, literally. Literally, dude. Okay, I'm going to download it.
Yeah, it's good.
Sorry, Pokemon TCG Pocket.
When you beat a run for the first time, I want you to send me, I think you can get like the screenshot of like your deck and your like status.
Sick. Okay.
So yeah,
that's
like
dope.
You can normally, did you play Slay the Spire ever?
I played it like once. I never really got into it.
You can see your deck, but you don't see the order of it. So you can like see all of the cards that are in your deck. And you can do that with the Balatro deck too. Like it'll show you all of the cards that are remaining to draw from your deck, but you don't know the order of them.
Yeah.
So you can get like that breakdown of it.
Oh, that's interesting. So you can kind of like plan for what's to come.
Yes, exactly. So
like you don't
decide
have to,
whether
it counts cards for you basically.
Yes, exactly. And you can like play, so you can like play a pair, but play 5 cards and like chuck away a couple cards to like, you know, try and draw into some of the better cards for your next hand too. It's just, it's great.
That's very chat hot, dude.
It's very chat hot, dude. Yeah. When I saw you playing that chat hot deck, the first thing I thought is this guy's got to get on Balatro.
This dude's kind of like Balatro. Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, the first time I installed it, I was about to travel. I was like about to get on a plane and I was like, oh, I'll have something to do while we're taking off and like waiting in the gate. I'll like play it for, 20 minutes, an hour there. And then I always sleep on planes. Like I get on planes, pass out, and then wake up. Sam can attest. I always do this.
Boy.
Notoriously, I teleport when I fly because I get on a plane and then I'm immediately somewhere else. But the first time that I had installed Balatro, I got on the plane and then just played 5 straight hours of Balatro until we landed on the other side. And I was like, whoa, what just happened with this game?
It's so good, dude. It's amazing, man.
Yeah.
All right. You've convinced me. I got to check it out. I mean, literally all my friends are playing it. Everyone is like, this game is the fucking best. People are playing it on like every system they have. They're like, it's insane. So, I think I must now.
You must tell me when you're first. We'll open a new Discord channel to talk about it when you get your first win.
Literally, yeah. Hell yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. I love that. So I think there was salt in those Pokemon hourglasses.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah, I think there was salt in those Pokemon hourglasses. Now that you mention it,
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. Smooth.
Yeah,
so
right. Did we get there?
What is salt though, Sam?
Excellent question, Mike, and thank you for asking. Salt
In
is
such a different, not
Yeah.
correctly cued.
No, it was perfect.
order.
It was perfect, dude. We are the business boys. I think
Yeah,
we've
straight
established
to it.
this. Yeah,
Straight to it.
straight to it. No chaff. Right to
Excuse me.
business.
I'll take the
What?
chaff. I'm taking the chaff over
you do
here.
like chaff.
Yeah,
You do
that's
like
over
chaff,
here.
I forgot. Salt is frustration in the game, as we like to say. It's anything in a game of Magic the Gathering that is going to get you frustrated, grumpy, irritated, maybe a little sulky because things aren't going your way. Salt is natural. Everyone is going to feel salt to some extent, whether you're feeling the little grains of salt. Maybe you get up to that full shaker of salt, which could be raging, flipping tables, throwing cards. Hopefully you don't get there, but maybe some people do, you know?
It could happen.
It can happen. We have the evidence. The evidence has been laid before us over the course of the show, so we know it's possible. And we're going to talk about all different types of salt so that we can learn from it and hopefully not be salty in a future game of Magic the Gathering. As we like to say, it's an edumagicational podcast.
Edumagicate. what's our normal thing? What does Tony do for that?
I think Tony usually just says, fuck yeah.
Oh, nice. Fuck yeah. There we go.
Hell yeah. Well, are we ready for our first salty story here?
Yes. Yes, I am.
So this one comes to us from our buddy Lotus Cobra Commander, our patron, our good friend. And this story is titled Aggro versus Combo. And the story goes, hey guys, it's your Instagram friend and patron, Lotus Cobra Commander. I decided to use the shiny new website to submit this story. Years ago, in our main play group, we had a player that only built and played 1 to 2 decks at a time, but built at a slightly higher power level than the rest of the group. This time, they decided to build an Izzet combo deck. The deck would often do nothing but play rocks and draw until they could combo off and win, often having enough counters in hand to counter your counters and protect their win.
Mm-hmm.
After several games of storming off and winning, I decided to try an aggro strategy to combat their combo strategy, the classic rebuttal. I was playing a mid-power Queen Marchesa human-themed deck, but it was more about the political choices and the Monarch mechanic than it was about smashing face. Anyways, we get underway, and I get the Queen out early with no counters or interaction to deal with this combo. I decide to attack him with the Queen and try and knock him out with commander damage. A few turns of this in a row, and removing his commander as a blocker, he gets salty, and he asks me to stop attacking him. I remind him that I can't deal with his combos, and he's already won today, so he should just get a blocker out or some interaction and stop complaining about getting attacked by a 3/3. I eventually get some equipment on the Queen and knock him out before he's able to combo off and win. The next game, he pulls out a Gaddock Teague Stacks deck and gets out an Iona Shield of Emeria pre-ban early in the game and locks us out and proceeds to win. Get fucked second, third, and fourth players. After he gets the W, he says, can we go back to playing fun Magic? I simply said, you're the only one who is salty. The rest of the table also dunked on him for not playing enough blockers or interaction and being a salty baby because he got attacked. We've been friends for years since, but truly a lesson in using an aggro strategy against combos. Loving the pod and the community you've built. Keep up the great content. Your friend, Lotus Cobra Commander.
Thank you for the
Thanks,
story.
Lotus.
It is good. It's classic.
It's such a classic salt, dude. I love it.
I feel like there's a joke. It's more common in like 60 formats, but of sort of the rock, paper, scissors situation of like mid-range, aggro, and combo. Like aggro beats combo, but mid-range beats aggro, and combo beats mid-range.
Yeah, it's just a classic tenet of Magic, and sometimes it really does come through in Commander. Like it like you said, it's harder because you have that 4-player dynamic.
Yeah,
but every once in a while, you do get a true aggro deck that just puts so much pressure on the table that, as a combo player, if all of your creatures are utility creatures or things that feed into the combo, like you can take the damage or you can block and get pushed back further and further into the game for when you're actually going to pull off that combo. So it really is it puts you in this tough spot. where you sort of have to start asking yourself, well, how much damage can I take before I combo off?
Yeah.
And you got to fly really close to the sun sometimes when you're on that type of strategy.
And Monarch is a really interesting wrench to throw into that plan as well, because if you're the only player that can't hit people, everybody else might be getting an extra card. Like Monarch might be going around kind of perfectly in sync with everybody's turn and everybody getting it if everyone's kind of swinging around. But if you're the one combo player without a board, without a blocker, without an attacker, like you're going to be the only person missing out on the Monarch draw for the turn, which could be pretty bad for you as well.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And Marchesa makes that happen.
Oh, definitely. It's funny because like last night we literally played an EDH game and Tony was on an aggro deck and I was on a combo deck. And literally the whole game, I was like, if Tony starts attacking me, I'm just going to fucking lose. And he didn't.
Yeah, he chose not to for the whole game.
The whole time I was just like, you know, my blockers were, I had Marwyn, which is like a super dork. Literally, I'm never going to block with it. I would go down to 1 life rather than lose Marwyn because it's a dork and it's a combo piece. I'm a commander, which is a 2/2 that tutors, Momir Vig. Again, would rather go to 1 life and almost lose than block and lose it.
Yes.
And then like, you know, myriad other combo pieces and stuff like that. So it's just one of those things that like sometimes those strategies are so self-contained that you do have a lot of weaknesses at the table. And it can seem like you're doing nothing if you're just drawing cards and playing ramp and kind of setting up. But once people catch on to you, you're kind of fucked, you know? Someone else has to be doing something really broken and scary to take the heat off you.
Yeah. It's one of the interesting differences between CDH2 and casual. Like in casual, I think there's more of like an assumption that threats are going to be on the board.
Yeah.
Like you're going to see the scariness of somebody by a stack of permanents accumulating in front of them. Whereas in CDH, people are a little more aware of like, okay, that person just drew 3 cards and tutored twice. Like that's a threat, you know.
Yeah, totally.
The hand state of somebody has gotten really risky, and these combo decks can do that sometimes too. Where like, sure, they're not playing out a crazy board, but they've gotten a decent amount of mana and still a full grip and like 1 or 2 other things that look like maybe a hint of an enabler. And you gotta start hitting him then, because the turn that it actually comes out, Momir Vig's gonna tutor a creature and then gonna tutor another creature off that creature that you played, and then win from there.
Yeah, that's been known to happen sometimes.
Tony's not here to defend himself, so I don't feel comfortable railing on him for this game that we had the other night.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're still out here striving to be less salty. I'll put it that way.
Oh man, that is the truth. That is the truth. So speaking of salt, I love the turn, because there's a moment in this story that I feel like every salty player gets. And I think it's something that a lot of like links in with a lot of stories that we hear. And it's when this person gets salty, loses, they say, "Hey, stop attacking me." And Lotus, very rightly so, is like, "What? So you can just combo off and win?" Nah, I think I'll just kill you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna hit you instead.
And they pull out the punishment deck. They pull out the Gaddock Teague stacks deck, casting Iona Shield of Emeria, which if people don't know what this has been banned in Commander, so you probably have never seen it if you haven't seen it in a long time. It costs 9 mana, 6 and 3 white. It's a legendary creature, Angel. It has flying, and it's a 7/7. The most important piece of text on it, though, and the reason why it is banned, is it says, as Iona Shield of Emeria enters the battlefield, choose a color. Your opponents can't cast spells of the chosen color, period. If you're on a monocolored deck, get fucked. And in Commander, it basically means you can't cast your Commander anymore.
Yeah.
If not a giant portion of your deck. So pretty brutal. I mean, Gaddock Teague, I think a lot of people know Teague is also like a pretty common stacks piece. Off the top of my head, a green and a white.
For 2/2.
A green and white for 2/2. You can't cast non-creature spells with CMC 4 or greater.
I think just greater than maybe 4 or greater. You also can't play non-creature spells with X in them.
Yes, that as well.
Or maybe even just spells. Gaddock Teague is such a weird one.
Not non-creature on both. So non-creature spells with converted mana cost 4 or greater can't be cast. Non-creature spells with X in their mana cost can't be cast. Brutal.
All the fun stuff.
Exactly.
All the big fun spells, you can't play those anymore.
So again, this person pulls out the punishment deck. They say, I have been wronged. I've been wronged here. I'm going to play the most toxic deck I have to teach my pod that they've made a mistake in, rightfully targeting me down. And then I think the fucking line that they have where they say, can we go back to playing fun Magic?
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. It's like, did you learn your lesson in the timeout corner? That shit would get me insanely salty.
Well,
so
it's
bad,
also
dude.
it's also saying, hey, I just decided to make this game unfun.
Yeah.
It's like consciously acknowledging that I nuked the fun of a table, which like, even if you just had an unfun game, you should be aiming at having a fun game in your next game. You should never be like sabotaging the experience that you and everybody had. You're just admitting that you decided to have a bad time.
Yeah. And honestly, those games aren't fun. I've played games that have that overwhelming control of
vengeance.
The board. Yeah, the overwhelming vengeance. Like I think we talked about it, I don't know, maybe 10 episodes ago where I had my mistaken combo and I scooped and I got really salty. I played Gave afterwards and I happened to get Dictative Erebos and just locked the board with Dictative Erebos. It wasn't a fun moment for me. I just felt worse because now no one was playing and no one was taking any game actions, and I had so many stupid game actions to take on everyone's turn, and it was just unpleasant.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
it was.
The pressure was on. Yeah. It's not fun. I don't know. It's just such pure vengeance, dude.
Yeah. I hope they did go back. It sounds like they did go back to playing fun Magic, though. So at least that was a useful quick check-in on that.
When did Iona get banned? Let's see. Oh, she was banned in July of 2019. That is wild, dude. I don't think I've ever seen that in a Commander game, and I've definitely played Commander around that time. I guess everybody I play with is nice.
2019, huh?
Yeah. That's a lot later than I thought.
Came out with it that made it stupid?
I don't know. I guess a lot of people were cheating it into play and things like that. Like it sounds like it was a mainstay of Kalia of the Vast decks.
That makes sense. When did Kalia? But that was 2019.
Like OG.
That's
Kalia
like OG,
is like 20.
Yeah. Weird.
I think Kalia is like a 2012 or 2013 commander.
Very weird.
Maybe even 2011. Kalia, I think, was actually from the first commander set ever printed.
I think Kalia might have been from Alpha. I think Kalia might have been the first card Richard Garfield ever thought of.
I think you're right, dude. I think you're right. Black Lotus, and then Kalia of the Vast.
Yeah, and then Time Warp,
and then Time Warp.
Yeah.
Time Warp. Oh, dude. Well, what do you think about do I ask it or do you ask it when Tony's not here?
We simultaneously, we two-headed giant ask it.
well, what do
you think about the salt rating is? Over Zoom too. It's so bad.
I'll have to sync it up in post if I can.
There's no chance. I hope you do just the original, like right at least as a blooper.
Okay, I'll preserve the original as a blooper, and then I'll, if I can, sync it up. That's what people will hear
at all.
if it's possible.
Great questions, to Mike.
Great. Yes, Mike, our celebrity couple name.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think this is too high. It's high enough that someone sabotaged a game. That's annoying. That would bug me. And you're not allowed to legitimately be upset when you're the combo player and the aggro player starts hitting you.
Exactly.
You can fake it. You're allowed to politic and be like, "Oh, don't hit me," and you should. That's fine.
I'm just
That's
a
part of the
guy.
game. Don't hit me. What, me? Look, I don't have anything going on over here. Don't.
That's the best move. If you can show them your hand, if you can just reveal your whole hand and be like, "Look, a pittance. I have nothing."
Yeah. But you should, as the aggro player, be like Lotus Cobra.
Yeah.
And still just hit them.
Stick to your guns.
Yeah.
Stick to your guns.
What you're doing. Play to your outs.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. This is secondhand salt. I think we have the gift of time with this salt, where the salty sting isn't really there anymore. And I think we also have the gift of being one person removed. Lotus isn't
Yes.
very salty here. Lotus knows that he was in the right, knows that he, smacked down his friend who was stomping all over them and doing crazy combo stuff in a pod that maybe wasn't ready for it. And then, when this other person got super, super salty, at the end, they were like, fuck you, dude. You got fucking schooled by an aggro deck. Like, maybe just, I don't know, play a little bit of removal or play one blocker in your whole deck. And they were right to say that as well. So,
yeah,
as far as Lotus's salt goes, very, very low.
Pretty low.
You're on the right side of history. As far as the combo player goes, ooh, baby.
it's a little higher.
To not only bust out the Gaddock Teague deck to punish your friends, but to even have it. To even have the gross stacks deck in a pod that, like, sounds like isn't fully equipped to deal with an Izzet combo deck, to be like, oh, you can't deal with combos? Then you're going to love stacks. There's a level of, like, premeditated vengeance there that is incredibly salty, that has a history of salt behind it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a vengeance deck like that. I don't even think I have one in my, like, a lot of people are like, oh, I take this out. Like, if I've been losing all night, I take this one out. Like, oh, if a pub stomper
You did literally just share the story of taking out Gave because you had lost a game and were frustrated. You literally just talked about
but
that.
I took out Dictative Erbosa. Technically, I don't have that deck anymore. It's a new deck. It's been changed.
Totally different. It's at least 4% different.
What's the opposite of the Ship of Theseus story? I got a boat and I took out one board and I renamed the boat. It's a different boat now. I changed this one piece of wood.
It's got a different. The paint job is different. Yeah. The name. I put it in new sleeves.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a new deck.
It's re-sleeved. It's a totally new deck, dude. Yeah, that's fair. I guess I did have a vengeance moment. Whew. Oh, man.
All right. Well, how about another one?
Yeah,
another
let's
story
do it
here.
This next one comes to us from our buddy Hazy Day. And this post is titled, Is It PTSD? IZZET. So, like, it's kind of asking a question, but it's also a bit of a pun. It's a bit of a little pun there.
Yeah. See what he's done there. Yeah.
And the story goes, me and my sister sat down at our LGS with a new player and a combo player we had played with before. I was running Mishra, claimed by Gix. My sister was on Hawkball. The new player was on the Gonti Precon. And the combo player was on Ovika, Enigma Goliath.
Nice.
Mike plays that deck.
We love an Ovika deck. I have a suspicion on where the story is headed.
Yeah, same. This was a more casual game, I told the combo player, and he told me it was one of his weaker powered decks, only to follow that up with a turn 1 Jeweled Lotus. Rest in piss. The new player played a Destroy Artifact spell and was going to target my Skull Clamp. I told the player that although Skull Clamp is a good card, the Jeweled Lotus could lead to Ovika, a strong commander. The combo player agreed that he should not target the Skull Clamp and instead save it for something better, but not his Jeweled Lotus. He ended up destroying the Jeweled Lotus, upsetting the combo player, saying that he was being targeted. I got Mishra out and started my deck's game plan of draining everyone and attacking the combo player as he had no blockers. The combo player said I had Izzet PTSD and that I was targeting him. The combo player finally got Ovika on the board and made infinite goblins on his next turn, killing us all.
Oh, yeah.
Do I Do I have Izzet PTSD? Or should the combo player learn to not take it so personally? This is funny.
Yeah.
So peek behind the screen. I don't know if we left in that earlier bit that I said, but I'll say it again now. We got these two emails on the exact same day. Sometimes Squarespace aggregates emails together when we receive them from our website on the exact same day, or like within a few hours of each other. And both of these have to do with Izzet combo players not knowing how to deal with a board state that's aggressively targeting them.
Yeah. I mean, Izzet's going to do that though.
Literally,
that's kind of what Red Blue is going to do that.
Yes, always.
Unless you're like a very specific kindred of like giants or, wizards or something, like some specific
giant
creature
wizards.
type based giant wizards. Yeah. that option as well.
Yeah.
Perhaps. But yeah, you're going to be doing this. You're going to have like a bunch of resources and then go for this explosive. Like one word for Izzet is pretty much like explosive. I feel like that's sort of the whole theme of the guild, of like this kind of creative spark kind of vibe. I love that because that encapsulates, like, gameplay wise, the identity of this color pairing of blue and red, of how these like colors are supposed to work. But yeah, players that like that don't want to be hit because they're busy setting stuff up.
Exactly. It's very disruptive to the combo if you attack me. I mean, it's just how it is.
Yeah. And like we've said, you know, you're allowed to complain as the Izzet player, especially during the game, but you're also not allowed to like really, really feel it and believe it to some extent.
Yeah, there's a bit of like a charade with playing a combo deck where you need to like play very quietly. Like you need to play it down all the time and be like, I'm not really doing anything. You got to play it really close to the chest. If you're a combo player and you push out and extend as far as you can, then people are rightly going to target you down. If I was this Ovika player, I would keep that fucking Jeweled Lotus in my hand.
Never play Jeweled Lotus until I was about to
cast Ovika. It would come down the turn I was casting my commander.
Yeah.
Because Ovika's a lot of mana. It's like 7 or something.
7 mana. Yeah. And that is the crazy thing about Ovika decks, is like, of course they're going to win if they get to untap with their commander out. Like, they should. They had to pay 7 mana for it and then make it a whole rotation back around. And sure, it's got Ward 3.
I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it top to bottom right now because people need to know what this thing does. So Ovika Enigma Goliath, 5, a blue and a red, legendary creature Phyrexian Nightmare. It's a 6/6 with flying. It also has Ward 3, so 3 mana, and pay 3 life. So the ward is paying 3 life and paying 3 mana. The most important thing that it says is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create X 1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature tokens, where X is the mana value of that spell. They gain haste until the end of turn.
Yeah,
it's really that last line that is clutch.
Yeah, they gain haste. Perfectly natural, healthy, good card to be printed. Very good. Naturally leads to very pleasant play patterns.
Yep.
Yeah, it's obviously ridiculous.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts.
It's pretty good. It's strong.
Mike has a $50 Ovika deck that's just fucking it's so fucking sick. I really, really love it. It's hard to play against because you do need to stuff. You need to stuff Mike in a dumpster as much as you can.
Yeah, because it does this. And really the thing is that sometimes Ward 3 and like a little bit of ramp to get a 7 mana card out on turn 5 or something, like sometimes it's just not really stuffable if people are playing like normal mid-range stuff. But if it stumbles at all, it can really just kind of brick.
Yeah.
But that's to the most part like how the deck is built. And, you know, I try in my build of it to intentionally add a little bit of smoothing so that it can have a more natural growth of a deck. And like by limiting to $50, there's sort of a requirement to do that too, of like build a bit of a setup board. Because if you do just like run full budget, run whatever cards you want in Ovika, there are so many cards that you literally just play them after you've played Ovika and you're like off to the races. Like it's Mana Echoes is a classic example of like, if you play Mana Echoes and you have Ovika out and you play a 2 mana spell, you're going to have 6 mana because the 2 creatures will come in. They'll both see 3 Phyrexians and you'll make 6 mana off of playing like a 2 mana spell. So every spell starts becoming a ritual.
Just explodes, dude. Yeah.
And it just has this kind of explosive, like growth, exponential growth thing where you're just making more and more goblins at a rate that you can then go do crazy stuff with, like generate mana off of like rituals and all kinds of things. So,
and the beauty of Ovika is that the win con is right there. It's hasty goblins.
Yes.
Like it's not subtle what the deck's trying to do. You're trying to make a critical mass of goblins and attack.
Yes.
And the fact that the goblins have haste, I think is like the most busted thing on the card. Because you can really just have an explosive turn out of nowhere and push yourself to the damage threshold to take somebody out. And you don't see it coming. Like you don't have a turn to react. It's happening right now. And that is the thing that's the thing that like really, it does have to put you on edge when you play Ovika.
Yeah.
Or when you play against Ovika, you have to be like aware that it's just gonna turn on and you may not see it coming.
Yeah. And in casual, one of the things that I do like about Ovika is I do feel like it, like we're saying, it's strong. It's got these kind of crazy potential for explosiveness, but it is 7 mana. It does fit this pattern of like, you need to set up a little bit. Because
Oh,
if you just play it and pay 7 mana, you're literally saying, I really hope I get back around to my turn
yeah.
and can play, 8 more mana of stuff. And that'll give me 8 goblins. So
Yeah.
like, of course, you're going to jam the deck full of like silly stuff that gets you free spells and cheats things in on cost, but still makes all of the goblins. Like there's tons of stuff you're going to do to try and cheat it. But like usually you're playing and passing and hoping. And sometimes the hoping's not good enough and you're not going to make it back to your turn.
Sometimes the ward is not enough.
Yeah. But often it truly is. If it makes it back, you get to go for a win. So,
or at least take somebody out.
And you're the only player usually when you're looking at your hand that knows which one of those you're going to plan to do. So if you do truly want to not get hit and you truly have like no reason to be getting targeted, you can start to show people off your hand so that they know you're not the threat. But
that's dude, showing my hand lately has been my fucking favorite thing. I love it.
Yeah, that's good.
Such a power move. So I guess the real question here before we get to our salt ratings is, does this person have Izzet PTSD, or should the combo player learn to not take it so personally? I think my take is that having awareness of what an Izzet deck is capable of, specifically an Ovika deck, I don't think that that's just an overblown reaction. I think that that's just good play. Like you want to stop this person from going, and rightfully so. They say, hey, everyone's targeting me. Don't target me. And then you don't. And then they literally played Ovika and won on their next turn. Like it happened. The thing that you were trying to avoid happened exactly. So whatever the Ovika player said is kind of moot after that, because you're just, they were like, well, it's not like I'm just going to win in one turn. And then they're like, oh, actually, that's exactly what I'm doing.
And this is a fun thing too to figure out with players that you play a lot with, because some players will say, I have nothing. And truly when they say that means they have nothing.
Yeah.
And you can leave them around because they're not going to do anything. You can spend your resources elsewhere. Some players will always be saying, I have nothing. And then you can't really figure out anything about it, because they'll say nothing when they definitely still have something.
They have a bunch of shit in their hand.
So it's helpful to get to know the players as well. It's nice in a fixed pod to play around with that a little bit.
What are you hinting at, Mike? Are you saying something about me?
Saying you always fucking say you have nothing. You said that earlier in this episode that you should always say it. And then one player in our pod always falls for it.
Yeah, Tony does always fall for it.
But again,
truly
here.
Though, I did have nothing in my hand.
Not here, so I won't lay into him too much.
Last night when we played.
Yeah, but you had it on board. You had had Momir Vig and a card that lets you play creatures off the top of your library.
Well, what are the chances that I had one creature on top of
one green creature? I don't know. If you have a scry on your upkeep from Lifecrafter's Bestiary and an extra draw when someone plays an extra Howling Mine.
Don't forget the extra draw from the Howling Mine that Tony played.
I wish I had all our games recorded. Just
for the good folks at home, Mike got so salty last night because Tony chose to take out Mike and didn't take out me because I had no creatures in my hand.
That wasn't why I got salty. I got salty because it was a large part of it. But 5 minutes before that happened, I was like, here's what's going to happen. Sam's going to play some stuff. Tony's going to kill me with this creature that he's deciding between swinging at me or Sam with in a turn. Yep. I'm going to die, and then Sam's going to combo off and win. And it's going to be the same thing that has happened every time since the dawn of time. Tony will do something. He'll at some point say, I don't even care, and take some game action that just totally hands something over. And I said that. And then I had to say also, of course, by saying this, I've ensured that it's going to happen. Because I can tell that I've pissed Tony off.
Tony said, yes, you were correct.
Yeah, he was like, yes, that is going to happen now. And then he didn't actually think that Sam was going to win because of it, though. He thought I was just being a salty baby about it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, exactly what I said was going to happen happened, and Sam won with the combo on his turn.
There was a chance
after.
There
was a chance.
But the fact that I top decked Ashaya. I top decked Ashaya, cast Ashaya with Momir Vig out and another card draw enabler tutored up Quarian Ranger, and then just comboed off and made infinite mana, tutored all my creatures out, and won.
It's one of those things, though,
like
where you have to consider what the heart of the cards is. And for you, the heart of the cards was any green creature in the top 3 cards of your deck.
Yeah.
Which is like much less impressive than 1 card out of 96 that, you know, someone else drawing 1 out of their deck might need. So
I wasn't even wearing my Millennium Puzzle that night. I took it off.
You were. I could tell. It was as a belt. It was off the screen of this.
Just glowing. Just this huge glowing. No, I'm not even wearing it. Sam, are you taller and is your voice deeper? What's going on? No, Mike. That was great, man. So what do we think about the salt rating for this post?
I don't know. Now I'm just thinking about our game last night.
I knew we were going to get there eventually, man. Having that salty experience and knowing that you and I were going to record today.
I don't like it when Tony's not around to defend himself.
You were trying not to, and I was trying to. I was trying to steer the conversation.
It's true. It's true.
I was baiting you earlier by being like,
I know.
Hey, you got to always
it once. I dodged it once, but the second time I couldn't.
I will say that this Ovika player is just being a salty baby. You know, this isn't super high salt. This is your classic salt. But hey, if you want to be sneaky with your 7-mana commander and combo off in like the span of 1 to 2 turns, maybe slow play that Jeweled Lotus. And actually, you don't even have to worry about that anymore because it's banned. But just keep that in mind. Like, pick one deck in your pod that you think is faster than your deck and play 1 turn behind it.
Yeah, or half a turn. Half a turn behind it in some mystical kind of way.
Look a little less threatening than another deck. If you are playing the combo deck and you look the most threatening, or even going back to the previous story, Lotus's story, if you're playing a combo deck and you have a history of constantly winning with that combo deck, well, you're gonna rightfully be targeted.
Yeah. And in terms of the like kind of complaining about it or trying to deflect a good bit, like it's just an expected amount of salt. Like you're gonna encounter this.
It's classic.
This is if you drive on New England roads, the underside of your car, it's gonna get salted. It's gonna get corroded. Like
it's true.
It's gonna happen. It's just gonna happen. And that's kind of the case here. Like you're gonna do this when you run into some of these situations. If it happens every game or repeatedly or for a long period of time, like maybe you got to have a quick check-in of like, we're not really targeting you. Like, you know, we genuinely have to attack you, right? And that's like the counterplay because when we get to your turn, you die. And like usually someone without their like the heat of battle of a game that you're in the middle of will be like, yeah, I know, you're right. I get it. But if that's not happening, then like maybe you're getting an ounce of Izzet PTSD, or if there's multiple games in a row where the person dies and then shows you their hand after they're dead and was like, no, look, literally I had nothing going on. You just targeted me down and this was unfun. Okay. There's a certain point where you're like, okay, maybe I don't need to always beat up on the Izzet player every single time. But if they're putting up these wins the turn after they resolve their commander and stick them for 1 rotation and they do that consistently instead, you better keep hitting them. You're not hitting them enough.
Exactly. Well said. Shall we round it out with a third story here?
Let's do one last one.
Let's do it. All right, let's give this one a shot. This one comes to us from our buddy Oz, and this post is titled, Player is salty about power levels and turn length, and I'm not sure if I'm in the right or a hypocrite. That's a nice title.
That's a good one, yeah.
That's a little TLDR.
It's got some good full context right there.
It really does. And the story goes, Hi, Salt Boys. I only recently started listening since one of the guys at my LGS recommended the show to me, and I've been enjoying you all a lot. Sorry for the long story. I am bad at relaying in short text. Coincidentally enough, the same day I had one of my first major Salt experiences, which I thought you all might like. So at my LGS, there is a large commander community, and due to that, there's both a group of regulars who are there twice a week, Wednesday and Friday, and those that are there every couple of weeks, and then those who appear very rarely. I only started playing in early January and like to believe that since then I've become a regular, as I am there every evening. Although I've been there a lot, only since about April did I have a commander deck that was not one of the 2 pre-con commander decks that I started with. Those decks sucked. But I would happily go into games with large power plays as I needed the experience and have always found powerful magic more interesting. This is all background.
Part 1. Done.
Yeah, part one. Done.
I do love the explanation of some people go to the game store every night.
Yeah.
Some people go some nights. Some people go very rarely.
Very rarely. I love that too, dude. It's true. It's true.
Yes,
Some people do go very
that's
rarely.
accurate. Those are the various cadences with which you could attend your LGS.
On the day of my salty story, I got to my LGS about 15 minutes late. So most of the regulars were already in a pod. So I was left as a wanderer with another sort of regular. I think, Mike, we should call this person Garfield.
Yeah, maybe Chad and Tad as well.
Those are some interesting names. Maybe if two other people appear in the story, we can introduce those. So keep those in your back pocket. Keep those in your back pocket. We definitely didn't read the story prepared
in
names
advance
and then reread it.
No, that wouldn't even make a lot of sense to do.
Yeah, it certainly isn't what happened.
Yeah.
I do some trades of Modern Horizon 3 stuff while I wait. These two guys wander in. I mean, here's a crazy idea. Should we call them Chad and Tad?
Yeah, let's do that. Two
right.
guys? Yeah, let's call them Chad and Tad.
These two guys wander in, Chad and Tad, and
Nice.
Garfield asks, "Hey, you guys here for Commander?" And they say yes, so we make a 4-person pod. I came in that day really wanting to play my Pant Laser deck as I had recently upgraded it. But before I brought it out, one of the two new guys said, "Just to let you know, I've only been playing for 2 months. Let's say this is Chad. My Pant Laser is very strong, especially in casual, so I put it away and get out a weaker deck. So we get into playing the game, and my deck is doing better than I thought. And that's my bad. I will own up to that. But Tad starts complaining about how long my turns are taking, to the point of mockingly talking to the other players about bullshit while they wait for my turn to end. We finish the game, which I lost, and then get into the next game. In this next game, I decide to play my unchanged Desert Bloom Precon, so there can be no complaints about power level. We get into the game, and it's pretty fair, but then a part of Tad's play style really starts to irk me. I've never seen a player do it before. He's going through his turn and not announcing his plays or saying what he's doing. He's playing Faldorn and is getting his triggers wrong, which we only notice when watching his plays intently. Then Chad gets killed. He had pulled ahead with his Volo deck and became the issue, so rightfully got shot down. After he died, he had to leave the store to catch a train. So it was me, the annoying guy Tad, and the other guy who's chill, Garfield.
Nice. We love a chill Garfield.
I do love a chill Garfield, dude. He's just eating his lasagna, you know?
Yeah, he's just hating on Mondays.
Yeah, which I learned recently when my cat ate lasagna and got very sick. Cats should not eat lasagna.
No,
They just really should not do it.
not for cats.
Not for kitty cats. Then at one point, Tad's turn starts to take forever. I will own up that my turns in the last game took a while, but during those turns, I was constantly doing things and playing cards. It's just that I had a lot to do. Whereas on Tad's turn, the time was spent mostly staring at his hand and thinking like he was at the Pro Tour or a poker championship, not a casual EDH table. Near the end of the game, the table next to me, all guys I know from the LGS, had a player leave when their game ended. So I said I would join them next, which does feel like a dick move, but both me and Garfield were just sitting there in silence, watching Tad stare at his hand and both getting visibly annoyed. I was low on life, so I asked if Garfield would kill me so I could join the table. He did, and I ended up having such a better time with the guys I knew, and I got to play the stronger deck that I wanted to play. I'm not an easy person to piss off or bring out a snide response or to actually confront a person. But before leaving the table, I did say to Tad that you complained about the turn length during our first game, and we spent the last half an hour on your turn, with half of it spent looking at your hand. I still feel rude about doing that. Was I wrong in this scenario? Was it causing the salt, or was I right to be annoyed at this guy? Thanks for reading my story. Sorry for the length. And shout out to Pete for getting me into this podcast. What up, Pete?
Way to go, Pete.
Pete, you're a fucking real one, dude.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you for spreading the word.
The prospecting marketing squad.
Proselytizing to the prospectors, Pete.
Sharing the good word of manual labor of salt extraction.
Yeah, exactly. Spreading the good, spreading the good news, man.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
then,
it's an interesting question right in the end there.
Saga.
Yeah. I think those things can both be true. Like you can be valid for being annoyed with this and still maybe have gone too far by leaving sort of a parting comment with someone. totally valid to be frustrated with someone that's like complaining about turn length and then taking
Yeah.
super long turns on their own, and definitely behavior that's worth like mentioning kind of in the moment. But it does sound like maybe that was sort of like a parting shot. And like at that point, you got to think, what is this accomplishing for you? If it's just catharsis for you, you don't need to put somebody on the other side of it. If you're truly trying to, give them the advice to maybe be more conscious of their own turn length, there's probably a more effective way of delivering that message than, hey, you were really annoying in game one and now you were the problem in this game too.
Yeah.
There's a better way of communicating that'll make that stick.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think both things are true here. First of all, I don't think you caused the salt. That is part of this last thing. I don't think you caused the salt. It sounds like this person was being a bit of a jerk in the first story. I mean, it's one thing to comment on somebody taking a long turn. It's another thing to like kind of make sarcastic remarks to somebody who's a stranger. Like I'll do that to my friends. I'm not going to join a random pod with people I don't know at an LGS and start making comments like that. If you want someone to speed up their turn, it's probably not in your best interest to talk over their game actions also.
Yeah.
So Tad was kind of wrong there as well. Like, I don't think that they handled that right in the first game. When it comes to the second game, I think it's very understandable to be frustrated because the thing that this person was complaining about is now exactly what they're doing. And they're just tanking a lot. Like they're just burning time and thinking, which sometimes when it feels like nothing is happening, those long turns can feel extra long. Like you can have a 5-minute turn that feels like 15 minutes because somebody is just sitting in silence and you're like, you got to take game actions,
Yeah, definitely.
I agree with Mike, though. I think that like you asking to get knocked out of the pod sent the message already.
Yep.
Generally speaking, like when you are taking up all the game actions and when you're taking up a lot of the time in the game, you're aware of it. Like most people, we've talked about this a little bit in this episode. Tony and I talked about it a few episodes ago as well. When you're taking up all the time, when you're tanking, when you're trying to sequence things right, and everyone else is just kind of like spacing out, they're sitting there in silence. The pressure is on. Like you are very
you feel that
aware of it. Yeah. I mean, speaking from personal experience, maybe some people aren't, but I think generally speaking, you're acutely aware of what is happening right there and trying to sequence quickly and solve the puzzle that's going on in your head. So I think like the message was received. I mean, I don't think you needed to say that thing, but I don't think it's like you've committed some awful crime by like saying some sort of snide comment before you walked off. Because this dude was super rude in your first game and then did the exact same thing. Like, it's not the end of the world that you said that. I wouldn't beat yourself up over it, but like, I don't know. I don't think, I think sometimes actions speak louder than words, and you being like, hey, knock me out of this awful game so I can go play with someone else is a very strong message right there.
Yeah. It is interesting too, because this person does at least seem a little bit, kind of a little consistent. There's a pattern where on your turn you play stuff, but you don't say anything because the time that other people need to engage is during combat. Like I've seen pods where 3 people chat while one person taps their mana and puts out the cards that they can play for turn. Then there's a combat phase where they let everyone know what they're attacking with, and then they pass. And then the next player starts putting stuff down silently as the other 3 people chat at the table. And like, there's sort of like a different cadence that'll happen. A style, like almost more like a board game where when it's your turn, you take your turn and people can see it happen, but you're kind of just hanging out and chatting anyway.
Definitely.
Which, like, sometimes someone's looking for that, but it definitely doesn't jive with if you're trying to understand what's going on. And if someone is misplaying, you really can't. You can't be doing that. You're not comfortable enough to be playing in that kind of mode, So you got to be talking about it.
And Faldorn has a lot of triggers. It's the precon commander, a Gruul precon commander, where you're making wolf tokens, you're impulse drawing off the top of your deck. You have all these triggers to manage. So if you're fucking that up, you could be ripping extra value that other people aren't seeing. Like it's pretty easy to
borderline cheat.
Incidentally, to kind of borderline cheat there. So like I agree. I think there's this beer and pretzels vibe that some groups have where it's truly like we're just hanging out, we're chit-chatting, do your thing, and then when it matters, tell me what's going on the board. I think there's a certain power level where that starts to become like really hard to do because it's not just all about battle cruiser, what's happening in the combat step. It's like, oh, there's other shit that's being played. That element, I think, is just adding to the salt here. They're misplaying and they're not playing cleanly. Yeah. Which is very, very frustrating. There's just kind of a lot of salt here. It's really just like coming across somebody in an LGS and having a bad time. Like sometimes people can just kind of suck the joy out of a couple games for you, which is unfortunate, you know?
Yeah. In particular, though, it's totally, it is fine if you're having a not pleasant experience. It's fine to, set up the fun time right next to you. Like if other people are getting ready to play that game and they need a fourth player, it's totally fine to be like, hey, can I join as that? You can even be having a good game with the people you're playing with and want to get a game in with your friends after and say like, maybe you part on a little better terms in that case and thank people for the game and, hope to catch them next time and stuff if you're having a good game. But even in those cases, like it's always totally fine to seek out a play experience that you're going to be interested in.
Definitely. There's one last thing I want to call out in the story, and it's something that you say early on where you want to play the Pantlesa deck, you recognize that there's a new player and you swap for something that's weaker. Then you say that your deck is doing better than you thought and that's your bad and you will own up to it. I don't think you need to own up to anything there.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're kind of being a little overly considerate here. Variance is a thing. Power level discussions are not perfect. Someone at every table is going to be doing better than the other players. Like it's very rare for a game of EDH to have 4 perfectly balanced decks at every snapshot of the game. There's always going to be a moment where someone's pulling ahead, someone's getting better draws, someone's ramping harder, getting more value, has a stronger commander engine, what have you. Like I appreciate that our friend here is being so considerate, but I think there's a limit of that where like you should still be able to play what you want to play. And even if you decide to power down and that deck is still like doing pretty well, doing well doesn't necessarily mean you're like borderline pub stomping or like giving somebody a bad gaming experience or
chose the wrong deck. Like that may have just been the best option that you have for that moment for that game.
Definitely. So, cut yourself some slack there too. I think I'm just getting the vibe that you're being a little hard on yourself for that. I think you're totally fine. Well, what do you think about the salt rating on this one here, Mike?
I think it's sort of a simmery salt. It's like if we were to just dig one shovel down into the earth and we'd find sort of a thin, evenly distributed layer of salt, some like, geological strata of salt throughout this layer. Because I think there's just kind of a light, like just had a couple kind of crunchy, salty games where you didn't vibe with someone and it's kind of spread throughout the whole thing. And then there's the one point where you like really kind of hit it.
Yeah. I think this reminds me of like, I think we all had a friend like this, maybe in high school, especially if you had the type of friendships where you kind of like rag on your friends. Maybe you've pushed someone a little too far and they're just like, fuck you, dude. And you're like, whoa, hey, dude, I was just joking around. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And sometimes that's that moment that you need to be like, oops.
Yeah.
That was a bit much. Oh, I was kind of being annoying about the whole turn length thing.
Exactly. It just seems like you just got pushed past the edge of salty, where normally you're very reserved. Normally you're not going to say the snide comment or something like that. It's like, it was just one bit of salt too many. And I get it, man. It happens. It's a pretty, I think, fairly low salt as far as it goes. Hopefully you're not playing with Tad too much. And hopefully you can catch more chill games with Garfield.
Nice.
And I hope you appreciate the names we gave everyone.
Yeah, we needed something.
Yeah, we needed something in there.
Well, is it that time of the week?
I think it might be that time of the week. Let me check. Oh, it is that time of the week, Mike.
It's the time of the week where Tony usually said.
No, that's not the line. Say, what time of the week is it?
What time of the week is it, Sam?
It's the time of the week that comes every week.
This is normally the moment where I'm frantically pulling up spreadsheets. So I just don't know how this part goes.
Every motherfucking week. It's the time of the week where we say, Mike. What's the salty card of the week?
The salty card of the week this week is
the salt inside me and everyone's to blame. You stopped my win con, but all your decks are lame. that's a very short and sweet, salty
and
song.
to the salt. I love it.
And this is a request from our patron Ramming Speed, and the song is called "The Town Inside Me." And do you know where this song is called? Do you know what this song is from, Mike?
Is it from The Town Inside Me?
The Town Inside
Capone? Me? Is it Capone Baggy from One Piece's theme song?
No, but it should be. Is that how you say his name? Baggy?
I'm not saying it right.
I would always call it like beige. or like beeggy. Beeggy.
Yeah, it's probably something like that.
It's a song from Guilty Gear Strive, which is, I don't know if you know Guilty Gear. It's like a fighting video game. And Guilty Gear Strive came out on PS4.
Neat.
Yep. Thanks for having Speed.
Thanks, Sam. That was a lovely, salty song of the week.
Thanks, Mike. And we learned something. Wow.
About
ourselves.
Guilty Gear and ourselves.
About Guilty Gear and about how to pronounce Capone Beegie's
Well,
last
we didn't
name.
learn anything. We just threw out some theories.
Threw out some theories.
We just established some possible options.
Yes.
The salty card of the week this week is Cursed Rack. Notably included because if Tony was here, he would, of course, go to the gutter in some fashion.
I was like, man, some haunted titties that you're
I knew you and I would have the sort of composure and the class to discuss this on its own merits.
I can't contain it.
Sam's just white knuckled over there. Like, don't make me do this.
Boobs. Like some haunted boobs. Tell me about these cursed
rack. This cursed rack.
Mike, tell me about these spooky yabos, dude.
I will. Yeah, these haunted tatas. Here's the info coming right to you. It is a 4-mana artifact. As Cursed Rack comes into play, you choose an opponent. The chosen player's maximum hand size is 4.
Oh, I know this card.
Yeah? Would it make you salty?
Oh, yeah, that's all it is? That's it. I thought there's going to be more. Maybe.
Nope,
oh, no, I do know it.
Ashnod invented several torture techniques that could make victims even mile away beg for mercy as if the end had come.
Ooh, end with a capital E. You know, that's
with
something
a capital
important.
E. The art is pretty funny. It's I think they based the gingerbread man scene from Shrek off of this art.
Really?
Yeah, you know where like the gingerbread man's having a rough go of it.
Yeah, I do know.
Check out this art. Yeah, it's basically
I'm looking at it. Yeah, this is
the listener. The listener should check it out.
This is a Richard Thomas classic. Richard Thomas has 4 cards that all depict this little stuffed dummy being tortured in different ways. It's Cursed Rack, Black Vice, Leshrack's Right, and The Rack. Not Cursed Rack, just The Rack.
Yeah. So, would this make you salty, Sam?
This would make me salty, and this has made me salty. I think.
Really?
Yeah. I think it was in a recent episode. You and I talked about, maybe it was a Patreon episode. I don't fucking remember. They all bleed together. You and I talked about Megrim or Megrim. I think we were debating.
Yes.
And like Liliana's Caress and all those types of things where whenever you discard a card, you lose 2 life. So one of my friends, back when I first started playing Magic, had a 60-card Cursed Rack deck that had Cursed Rack, Megrim's, Liliana's Caress, and then things that would force you to discard. And boy, that deck
not
fucking
pleasant.
Sucked. And this card was awful because, like, if you drew a lot, it would force you to discard down and you'd lose life. And they also had, like, I think they had things like Howling Mind that would, like, force you to draw too. So, you know, they would, like, feed your hand and then force you to empty it. So it's a very frustrating card. It's really tough when you can't get a foothold when it comes to hand size, because you not only is it hard to like accumulate value and get like a better game plan further on in the game, but it's also, it kind of forces you to play cards. If you have a hand of 5 and you don't want to play any of the cards, it kind of says, well, you could A, play one of them right now, or B, discard one. So you can either play a card or you just won't have it at all. So it puts you in a really weird spot where sometimes you feel forced to make plays that you don't want to do just because you don't want to fully lose the value by discarding a card.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely a salty card. Iconic, but salty. How do you feel about this one?
I think this is so brutal. There's something about choosing an opponent that is so vicious.
Oh, yeah, it's so much worse. It's so much worse in EDH.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, fuck this person in particular.
Yeah. You have to really, you're choosing to spite somebody, and it's not that good.
Yeah.
Also, like it's frustrating because, like, yes, discarding down to 4 would be really frustrating if you had a big old hand or something. But like doing this to one player, maybe forcing them to discard, realistically kind of 3 cards on the higher end, it's just not doing quite that much also.
For sure.
Do I want to play under it? Not at all.
Yeah.
But I don't think that person that spent 4 mana to get it into play got bang for their buck either. So now I'm like frustrated that they were willing to pay 4 mana for something that like mildly hinders me.
Yeah. I mean, 4 mana for this effect is quite bad. Like, consider that the rack just costs 1. You got to pay 3 extra mana to get that curse on that rack.
Oh boy.
And just the regular rack says, as the rack enters, choose an opponent. At the beginning of the chosen player's upkeep, the rack deals X damage to that player, where X is 3 minus the number of cards in their hand. So that punishes you from a damage perspective for having a high number of cards in your hand just for 1 mana, whereas the other one like fully restricts you, but it costs 3 extra mana. They're like comparable effects in practice, but one is fully capping you at 4, and the other one is just sort of saying like, hey, you're going to be disincentivized from having a large hand when you play against this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think ultimately in EDH, it's very bad. Maybe if you could copy it and give one to everybody and then do like wheels and stuff like that. But even then, there's so many way better cards as outlets for wheels. They're like Orcish Bowmasters or fucking Notion Thief or Smothering Tide. That's also 4 mana. That's going to just help you win the game after a wheel. Not just being like, I'm going to wheel. And then you guys have to discard 3 cards.
Yeah. It's really just a way to force some discards. You play it on the person that has the biggest hand and hope to stifle them down. To spoil a little bit, some of the commanders that are out there really benefit from getting somebody to discard a card, right? Like if you can get this on the player that has a full old grip and you get a Turgid out, okay, that's going to be annoying. But before we go too much farther, Sam, where do you think this lands in the top 300 cards on the Salty Cards list?
I am just going to rip it right off the dome. I'm going to say this is 268. I think it's pretty far down there because I've never seen it before, but like reading it makes me salty, but I've never seen it on the table. So that's my guess, 268.
268. Excellent guess. It is 262. Very close.
Dude, wow.
Very close.
I think that's better than Tony's ever done. That's crazy. Damn.
Yeah. Check the logs. Check the records on that.
Don't check them.
Skip it.
Don't check them. Yeah, don't check them.
Yeah, 262. So not the most salty thing, but definitely annoyed somebody. When you look at the commanders that it plays with, it starts to make a little bit more sense. Winter Misanthropic Guide.
Oh.
Tiny Bones, the other Tiny Bones, Turgid, Nekusar, Childred, Nicol Bolas. So all these cards that are all about like making somebody discard, it's just that this effect is another way of making people discard, and it attacks on a slightly different angle than a lot of the other things that make people discard.
Yeah.
And so I think it just makes its way into a lot of these decks and catches a lot of like side flack because of that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
The 13th card in the top commanders for this card is the first non-black identitied commander associated with this. What commander do you think that might be?
Is it like Jin Gitaxias or something?
No, but that's a funny guess. No, it's been printed in the last 12 months.
What? Is it the Mind Skinner?
Nope. It has 8,818 decks. No.
What?
No, I'm lying. It has 10 decks. It's not very popular, but it's funny. But it is in it. It is in it. This card does not get a much play widely either.
Yeah.
So
What is it?
it's Bellow the Bard. Bellow Bard of Brambles.
Oh, because
The
you
one
can
that makes
turn
them
it
like
into a
4/4
creature
that
and
hit
attack
people.
with it. So
Yeah.
stupid, dude.
So you just nuke one person and then you have a 4/4 creature that's hitting stuff.
Oh,
So
that's
gross.
so dumb, dude. One thing that I think is really interesting in here before we move away from this is that if you look at the old version of this card from Antiquities, this card, Cursed Rack, was a continuous artifact, not a regular artifact, but a continuous artifact, which goes into some of the obsolete terminology for artifacts that used to appear. Mono artifact, poly artifact, and continuous artifact. Continuous, it's an obsolete term, but it appeared as a type line of artifacts that did not have activated abilities. Cards printed with this text have been eroded now. But if it didn't have an activated ability and it just had a static effect, it was a continuous artifact.
Interesting.
The more you know. Well, that's a good salty card there, Mike.
Nice. Well, that wraps it up for the salty card of the week. Thanks for playing. I know it was a different sort of competition. Just Sam versus the cold hard number.
Just me versus the machine, dude. Well, thanks. That was a lovely salty card, Mike. And thank you to all of the prospectors out there. You know we're going to shout out our Salt Packet Plus tier members. And this week we have Thotimus Prime, Rothbox, Sire Speedy, Bobo Fett, Brimstone, Captain Croz, Elgo Fogel, Clearbrook, D. Beeson, Gilgamesh, Doug's Dad, Bark, Pez, Swankub, The Quiet One, and Vok. Thank you all for being so lovely and so sweet. And thank you to every prospector out there that hangs out with us in the salt mine every single Thursday. We really appreciate you guys tuning in, hanging out with us, laughing with us, just going straight to the business like how Mike and I do. No joking around, no crass jokes.
No jokes. Absolutely nothing untoward.
The tightest preamble.
The juiciest salty song.
Exactly. Really just made a meal of that salty song this week.
Yeah. The steamiest salty breakdowns.
And my cat she's like, get me out of this fucking room, dude. What the hell? You asked.
She really locked in.
Yeah. She asked to be in here,
Yeah.
We really thank you and appreciate you for tuning in and supporting the show. If you want more Howling Salt Mine in your life, you know where to go. HowlingSaltMine.com/Patreon. That's where our Discord community lives. And that's how you can get in there, which is really the heart and soul, the core of the podcast community. That's also where all of our extra content lives. Extra Salt, Stray Grains, our Off the Rails show, our annual HSM listens to HSM episodes. Some of my favorite shit that we've ever done. It's very, very, very fun.
Very silly.
We're also doing a lot of fun things in the Discord. We're chatting every day about stuff. We have a myriad of channels that have tons and tons of interests. Do you like interesting food? Do you like sports? Do you like Beyblades? Do you like Pokemon TCG Pocket? Do you want to get periodic updates about model battleships that fight and shoot each other with air cannons and then get repaired? Because we get those, and it's
those are the best.
Fucking treat whenever one comes in.
Every time one of those comes out, it's epic.
It's so good. I'm like, where's this project at right now? It's fucking sick. It's all there. Check it out. It's a fun time. We enjoy it. The good folks of the mine have a good time in there.
Yeah.
Another way that you can help support the show is to send us your salty stories, whether you're doing that on our Squarespace website, which is howlingsaltmine.com or thehowlingsaltmine.com, or you want to just submit it directly to our Gmail, which is thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com. Both of those avenues are appreciated. That's really our main area that we're taking stories out these days. I'm a stay-at-home dad. I don't have enough time to sort the stories like I used to. So we're just ripping them out of the email every single week. And it's been really fun doing that. So send it in and we'll read it on a future episode. Check out our merchandise. We've got shirts on Bonfire. We have playmats on our Jankmats website. And if you're buying anything from Dragon Shields, whether you're getting custom sleeves, playmats, their card sleeves, which are very, very good. Their deck boxes, which
and
I love
are available
so much.
for sure.
Well, not our customs, but their customs. From their website, you can use our affiliate code, which will give you a little bit of a discount. It is Stay Salty, all one word, all lowercase. Stay Salty. Punch that in at checkout, get a little money off, and it shows Papa Dragon Shield that we're doing good, and they like that, and we like it too. Another way that you can support us is give us a 5-star review in your favorite podcast app of choice, whether that is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever, or you can check us out on YouTube and subscribe there, like our videos, comment and shit like that. All of that stuff is going to help us. Check out our social media, follow us over there. All of that stuff is so useful. This is how we get to 10,000 subscribers, is by you doing this stuff. It really, really works. And how we get to 9,000 subscribers, which is when Tony is going to eat that Sarah Ascendant.
Oh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for that.
It's going to be so good.
That would be great if we could just get there.
Get there and then stop the podcast.
And then plateau. Write it off from there. Just nothing different from then on. No, of course not.
And of course, we got to shout him out, our buddy Devin Burnett. He's so awesome. He gave us our beautiful podcast art. And if you're ever in Asheville, North Carolina, hit him up and get a tattoo because he's a really cool guy. 10,000 subscribers are blessed. Thanks, Tony. Don't forget about the 9K, though, Tony. Oh, man.
Oh, I don't want to eat that Sarah Ascendant.
Indeed. As always, thanks again, everybody. And stay salty. And don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
It's the howling song line. The howling song line.
And my cat is losing her mind at the door, so I must
Go get
let her in.
her. Go get her. Hi, Zucchini. Hello.
Girl.
Hello.
Run wild. What are you doing down there?
Go knock some shit around.
Yeah, she'll
Get up
jump
on the
up
table.
She'll jump
Get up
up
on
and
the
cause
table.
mayhem soon.
Come on up. Come on up. I know where you're headed.
Yeah,
Don't you want to be on that desk? Knock those lands off.
No,
I know where
my
you're headed.
lands. My lands. Our dear, wonderful prospectors. Whoops.
Huh. Oh,
Zucchini was knocking my Morath deck off of my
yeah, I
table.
bet. I told her to.
She was
We knew
like,
she was gonna.
get this fucking shit off of here.
I don't want. What is this doing out here? Why is this out here?
But the other guy, not the new guy, but the guy who's been there since, oh my God, it's written really hard. It's written in a very complicated way.
It's very like that guy.
That
not
guy,
that
but
guy.
not this guy, but the other new guy. It's written in a very roundabout
This is why we
way.
need names. This is why we need goofy names for the characters in our show.